Hello and welcome to the CBV podcast. I just binge watched The Office, an American workplace, and what an office it is. If you haven't seen the American adaptation of Ricky Gervais's creation, then I highly recommend you do. Firstly, I should point out that I have still not seen the UK original starring Gervais, but I have already seen his spin-off movie called David Brent, Life on the Road. I really enjoyed that, so I at least had an idea of what the tone and style of the show would be like. If for some reason you have no idea what The Office is, then let me give you a quick overview. The show is a mockumentary focusing on the day in life of a boss and his employees in, you guessed it, an office. Pretty much as simple as the setup gets, but it features an awkward boss, a classic rivalry, romance, and surprisingly not a lot of work getting done. In fact, they spend more time messing around than they do actually doing any productive work. This show is just such an easy watch, whether you want to fully invest your time with these characters or just have it on in the background. This show isn't really grounded in any kind of reality, as it quickly sets up in season 1 how unprofessional and half-assed the company conducts its business, but there are characters such as Jim and Pam that keep the show relatable and heartfelt due to their characters not being written to be quite as exaggerated as those such as Michael and Dwight. This is a working environment that could only exist in your fantasy and would never survive this long, as any minor task or conference meeting these characters have can easily be blown out of proportion, and it's just hilarious to watch this ensemble work together. The best thing about this show are the variety of characters and their interactions within this at times ridiculous environment. As you watch the show, you slowly get to understand these characters more and more over time and see them develop, with no characters being ever forgettable. Except for maybe a character called Creed. I do sometimes forget that Creed is in the show. He's probably the only character you have more questions about by the end, and surprisingly, I actually enjoy how little I understand him. Overall, it's fun, it's dumb, and I love it all the more for that. It's hard for me to talk about the things I love in detail without the risk of spoiling great moments, but the show does a great job contrasting its comedic tone with its dull environment. The only way I can express my honest experience with this show in a spoiler-free way is to say that The Office starts to only get more entertaining the more seasons I watch. However, I do feel that the peak of my enjoyment was with season 5, and then after that it slowly and gently declines in quality up until the final episode of the 9th season. I think the reason for the second half of the show slowly declining in quality, for me, is due to big changes that start to occur in season 7, when we lose what could be considered the foundation of what keeps the show consistent. If you've seen the show in its full run of 9 seasons, then you'll understand what I mean when I say that. Also, another criticism is that new characters are sometimes given very rushed arcs due to their arrivals that occur as late as the final season, so it's hard for me to care or get invested as much about the new arrivals when characters I've spent time with since the first season are still being expanded upon and fleshed out further. These changes didn't ruin my enjoyment of the remaining seasons, but they didn't always fit the structure of the show either. Having said that, after these minor criticisms and changes, the reason the second half of the show is still entertaining is due to the felt presence of the original cast who are still remaining, as well as the heart of the show clearly still trying to be intact as much as possible. Not to mention Dwight steals every scene he's in. I love watching how power hungry he is to become manager one day. He's entertaining, he's bonkers, I love it. But even when the show dips in quality, like I said, Dwight and other characters like him still keep the show energetic. So it's still very fun to watch overall, and I really recommend you give it a go. The final episode ends at a very satisfying point with each of the remaining core characters, so much so I feel like this only adds to how much I appreciate the slow evolution of these relationships when I decide to one day rewatch the show in the future. At the start, I didn't expect to find myself attached to these characters as much as I did by the end, and I feel like that's a testament to how good the cast performances are when portraying these characters. For me, this show is a must-watch. It always puts a smile on my face, so I certainly hope if you give it a go, it will keep putting a smile on your face. Thanks so much for listening to my thoughts, and I hope you watch The Office if you haven't already. Subscribe, and feel free to follow me on Twitter @CloudBoyTweets or Instagram @CloudBoyInsta. Thank you very much and have a great day.